The GameCube and Wii emulator Dolphin was on its way to Steam but got delisted unceremoniously. What's a little weird, or maybe unexpected is a better word, is what role Valve played in all of this. I think you'll all be surprised, and it's something I haven't seen too many people talking about. So in this week's Deck News Roundup, we're going to talk about that, some deck-specific improvements to the Yuzu emulator, some PC-related Sony news, and maybe evidence that Valve continues to work on a new game. Let's get into it. Alright, let's go ahead and start with that news about Dolphin. We've known that Dolphin was coming officially to Steam ever since they posted a store page on March 28th. An emulator coming to Steam actually does bring with it some significant benefits. For example, it means that developers can implement Steam Cloud for save states, allowing you to easily have your save states transferred between PCs. However, it was only a couple weeks after that store page went up that we also got news of emulators being removed from Xbox Series consoles. So while I was excited for an emulator coming to Steam, I was worried that Nintendo would find a reason to have it taken down. Now, just a couple of months later, and before Dolphin has even had the chance to launch on Steam, the Dolphin page was delisted from Steam on Friday. Following that, the Dolphin development team posted this to their blog with the headline, "Dolphin on Steam indefinitely postponed," and it briefly explains what happened, saying that Nintendo issued a cease and desist while citing the DMCA. PC Gamer was able to see the legal notice for themselves, and they said that Nintendo is claiming, quote, "The Dolphin emulator operates by incorporating cryptographic keys without Nintendo's authorization and decrypting ROMs at or immediately before runtime. Thus, use of the Dolphin emulator unlawfully circumvents a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under the Copyright Act," end quote. Modern Vintage Gamer, or MVG, later released a video that breaks down how yes, there is in fact a cryptographic key right in the Dolphin source code, which is easily found on GitHub, and how this is effectively an unforced error on the part of the Dolphin development team, who could have easily avoided this by not including this key in the source code. In all likelihood, I expect them to remove the key from the source code, and that means that it's something that users will have to provide themselves in the future, and this should all be straightforward enough, but does it mean that Dolphin will eventually come to Steam? Well, this is where things get complicated. A former member of the Dolphin team, Pierre Bourdon, posted a long thread on Mastodon about what actually happened. He said that unfortunately pretty much everyone has been getting the legal details wrong, and that there was actually no DMCA takedown notice whatsoever. Nintendo did not follow any of the typical DMCA takedown process, and instead it was actually the Valve legal team that reached out to Nintendo of America to ask them, hey, what do you think about Dolphin? And this is when Nintendo responded that they think Dolphin is bad and that it violates the anti-circumvention provisions. As a result, Valve took down Dolphin and forwarded NOA's reply to the Dolphin Foundation contact address. And so, in the biggest twist of all, it looks like this was all initiated by Valve in the first place. Valve reached out to Nintendo. Valve could have also decided to ignore Nintendo with no legal liability, but it didn't. And in doing all of this, Valve left the Dolphin developers with no recourse for a counterclaim, since no claim was initiated in the first place. As Pierre points out, Valve's terms of service likely allows them to take down anything they want for any reason they want. It seems as though Valve is trying to maintain a good relationship with Nintendo and would rather have something like this be taken down proactively than to be placed in the middle of a fight with regard to the legality of emulation. The good news perhaps is that no legal action has actually been taken against Dolphin as a project. Ideally, that would mean that Dolphin is in no more danger than it ever was or has been in the 15 years since its inception. Of course, we hope it stays that way because it's difficult to fight back against legal bullying like this. In any case, I highly recommend reading the Mastodon thread in full. It's incredibly detailed and helps to paint a full picture. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Now might be a good time to point out that Yuzu actually has some big improvements specifically aimed at the Steam Deck. According to Steam Deck HQ, here's what was in the changelog for Yuzu Early Access version 3604. It says they tweaked the garbage collector to be more aggressive in favor of the Steam Deck, they're limiting device access memory for integrated devices to 4 GB, and they're preventing VRAM usage from filling up in integrated devices like the Steam Deck. These are good updates, and similar to Cryo utilities, these changes should reduce the severity of memory access operations and, generally speaking, should reduce the severity of frame time spikes that you may see while playing Switch games on deck and other integrated devices like the deck. Given that, here is the latest checklist for playing Tears of the Kingdom on Steam Deck. This comes courtesy of Cryobite33, who has been playing a ton of Tears on deck, and he helped me out because I was using an outdated 30 FPS mod, which was preventing me from actually getting 30 FPS outdoors. So yeah, if you want the best Tears on deck experience, install Cryo Utilities, use Yuzu Early Access, at least version 36.05. Make sure you have the 1.1 update as well as these mods: 30 FPS TOTK, disable FSR, disable quality reduction, and FSR shader skip. I left the link to those in the description. In the game settings on Yuzu, go to the advanced graphics page and make sure you have the following settings. Finally, in Power Tools, lock the CPU to at least 3.4 GHz. I did have a lot of people asking for a more detailed video on this, but that was over a week ago. Definitely let me know if you guys still want to see a full video going over how to do all of this, or if you've already got it covered, you've already figured it out and you don't need any help. Oh, and don't forget to like this video if it's helpful to you. That's going to help it spread to more people. Next up, let's talk about Sony's new handheld, Project Q. I released a video on Friday going over how so many people were making fun of Project Q, but also how it could potentially redeem itself. There's no denying that the design is uninspired. If I look at my friend PS Ready's channel, there are so many cooler looking designs for a Sony handheld than what Sony came up with. I will say this, however, it looks comfortable. I wouldn't say the Steam Deck looks pretty, but it is incredibly comfortable in my opinion. So maybe that's where Project Q will shine. But one area where Project Q most likely will not shine, however, is the battery life. According to Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming, this handheld will have a 3 to 4 hour battery life. Tom Henderson was the first person to report on this handheld's existence before it was announced, and so I expect that this report on battery life is accurate and correct. I saw a few comments on my last video that called this more of an accessory than a handheld, and that's definitely what it's starting to seem like. It's basically an extension cord for your PS5, allowing you to play from anywhere in your house. In my video from Friday, I also said that I found it weird that Jim Ryan didn't really mention cloud gaming at all for this device. I still don't know what's the plan for that, but in a recent business call, Jim Ryan said that Sony has some fairly interesting and quite aggressive plans to accelerate their initiatives in the space of the cloud that will unfold over the course of the coming months. My guess is that this has something to do with Project Q, and we will hear more about how these two things come together before the launch of Sony's new handheld. Speaking of the PlayStation Showcase, a lot of people were disappointed by the show, and there are reports that Sony actually held back and it didn't showcase everything they had planned to, including a big AAA port coming to PC in July. It's unclear why Sony would have decided to delay the reveal, but both the Snitch and Tom Henderson are reporting that they had seen trailers for games that were not shown during the PlayStation Showcase. What's good, Deck Gang? I had a bunch of stuff in here speculating what the game might be and how the likeliest possibility was Ratchet & Clank, and just as I was editing this video, the news came in that the game in question was in fact Ratchet & Clank. This is an extremely exciting development. Ratchet & Clank is a game that was said to need the SSD on PS5, and so even if this game somehow plays decently on deck, which I doubt, it's probably not a game you'll be able to install on an SD card. All that being said, I am excited to have this game come to PC. How about you? Still though, the best thing about shows like these, Nintendo Directs and PlayStation and Xbox game showcases, is that more than half of the lineups in these shows are games that will be coming to PC. My friend High Tech Lowlife recently did a video that went over the games from the PlayStation Showcase that will be coming to PC, including Metal Gear Solid Delta, Towers of Agasba, Marathon, and two sequels I am extremely excited for: Ghost Runner 2 and The Talos Principle 2. The Talos Principle was an absolutely perfect puzzle game, and I personally rank it above The Witness. Ghost Runner was rough around the edges, but I really enjoyed it thoroughly, and I can't wait to see what they do with the sequel. But is it possible that Valve is working on a sequel too? That's what the entire internet began to speculate when they saw that voice actor John Patrick Lowry tweeted pictures from inside Valve's offices, including a picture of Gordon Freeman and, well, the Valve. John Patrick Lowry has done voice work for both Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life 2, and it appears he's back in Valve's office doing some new voice work. He clarified that these pictures were not meant to be clues towards anything in particular. He went on to confirm that these are new pictures and he is doing something for Valve, but added that he can't say what he's working on specifically. Valve working on a new game has been the worst kept secret for some time now. In fact, we already know they're working on several games at once. They've already announced Counter-Strike 2. There have been many reports of a project that's referred to as Neon Prime, and there's Team Fortress 2, which is set to get one of the biggest updates it's had in a while. Is it possible that this voice work involves a game that's outside of those three? Well, I suppose time will tell. One thing I wanted to spotlight in this video was this deck hero controller that was posted over on Reddit. The creator of this bad boy, Libration, says it's modeled after the Nintendo DS guitar controller for Guitar Hero on Tour. He provided a link to the printables page if you want to build one yourself. That is pretty badass. Thank you, Libration, and yeah, great name by the way. Finally, let's talk about some new releases for the Steam Deck. Of course, there's the Lord of the Rings Gollum. You've probably seen the terrible reviews by now. Well, apparently this game is not only bad, but it also performs poorly on deck. So yeah, there's plenty of reason to stay away from this one for the time being, I guess. On the other hand, System Shock is a game that I've been anticipating for quite some time. This actually comes out today and should be available around the time I'm publishing this video. Thankfully, reviews are already out, and while the reception is a little middle of the road, this does appear to be a faithful remake that fans of the original will enjoy. SDHQ did a Steam Deck performance review giving it 4 stars and provided some recommended settings that can get 2.5 to 3 hours of battery life while retaining high quality shadows. Warhammer Boltgun is another game I was anticipating highly as we approached release. I love me some boomer shooters, and this one has been reviewing quite well and has 94% positive reception on Steam. I haven't had a chance to play it, but SDHQ says a 55 FPS lock is best and it helps stabilize some of the more taxing areas that they encountered. I did get a chance to play Planet of Lana, and I can say that this game plays well on deck. It does use up quite a bit of deck resources at the default graphical settings, so it's worthwhile to bump that down to medium. The game gets over 93% positive reception, though for me, I was a bit underwhelmed and I would have preferred to wait for a sale. The game is absolutely gorgeous and the narrative is well told, but the puzzles were tedious and it felt like they really only stood in the way of exploring the awe-inspiring world that you were inhabiting. Still though, it's an impressive first effort from Wishfully Studios, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Convergence is the latest piece of media in the League of Legends universe. I've never touched League of Legends, but Riot has been on a mission to get me interested in the world of League despite that. This awesome looking 2D action platformer is getting great reception and reportedly plays well on deck so far. By the way, the release of the ROG Ally is almost here, and some people think Valve is responding to competition. Check it out in this video. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.